Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. There was a late contender for Quote of the Year at Parliament this afternoon, defending her rollout of tax cuts. Nicola Willis declared what New Zealanders care about is the size of the sausage, not how it's delivered. The Finance Minister's mini-budget today didn't deliver tax cuts for Christmas. Instead, she's aiming to save $7.4 billion by tightening the belt and chucking Labour policies on the bonfire. The economy is growing slower than expected, with Treasury saying there could be 2 recessions on the horizon. Unemployment is set to rise to 4.5% next year and to 5.2% in 2025. International tourism and soaring migration are propping up the economy, but they'll also keep interest rates higher for slightly longer. Political reporter Amelia Wade has the story.
After some big promises, the new Finance Minister's first big test.
It's the mini budget, and it's the new chapter for a new government with economic responsibility at its core.
Mini, indeed, ultimately, just a manila folder with 6 pages of press releases.
Pretty thin. Is there absolutely anything new that you're announcing today?
Yes, I'm announcing that an era of fiscal and economic mismanagement is over.
Look, it's just a bunch of press releases. On that basis, come upstairs, I'll do a mini budget for you now.
Kiwis struggling with the cost of everything and hoping for more cash for Christmas will have to settle for a promise.
There is much work ahead to clean up the mess that Labour left us, but Kiwis should approach Christmas knowing better economic management has arrived and lower taxes are on the way.
Willis has worked out how to cut and save more than $7 billion through culling some of Labour's projects like Let's Get Wellington Moving, 20 hours free childcare for 2-year-olds and half-price public transport, and spending cuts to the public service.
I reject austerity. We're actually doing the opposite. We're taking the responsible steps to protect frontline services.
Willis also got to show Kiwis the fiscal cliffs she's been warning about.
The value is $7.2 billion over the forecast period.
But most of those were already known, like needing money for the school lunches program and for Farmac.
Just because they are well known doesn't mean they're okay. I believe this represents a fiscally reckless approach.
Time-limited funding has been a very regular feature of budgets. I think she's tried to make accusations that don't stack up.
While there was a lot of talk of cliffs and financial time bombs, what was missing from the mini budget were the details of how she's going to pay for her mega tax cuts, or even who gets them first.
Who do you think deserves a tax cut first, landlords or Kiwi workers?
Kiwi workers.
Kiwi workers.
Kiwi workers, by far and away.
Kiwi workers, of course.
Well, I'm not sure, honestly.
I'm a landlord. I think Kiwi workers.
No one is any the wiser today as to how National will pay for their tax cuts than they were yesterday.
It could be that tax cuts are partly funded by a crackdown on tax evaders.
I've been advised that this could contribute hundreds of millions of dollars to our bottom line.
That was a New Zealand first idea.
Can I ask you about tax evasion?
Tax evasion?
Your plan for tax evasion?
But it was his evasion of a question about how tax cuts will be funded that saw Peters score an own goal.
The Minister of Finance has already found it.
Was that smoking?
No.
Peters taking exception to being heckled from all sides across the House.
That sort of clownish, cacophonous behaviour doesn't work.
But it was Willis who stole back the show, albeit unintentionally.
What New Zealanders care about is the size of the sausage, not how it's delivered. And how we will deliver it is... Mr. Speaker, it's been a year of bad quotes from me.
Referring to her last faux pas.
How big is his hole? And do...
That is not in the public interest, I can assure you.
Then trying to clamber out of her own hole.
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the House, I think enough talk of messes, sausages and holes.
Thank you. Does the size of the sausage matter?
Not answering.
Well, as the size of my gut demonstrates, I love a good sausage.
Oh, goodness gracious me, Lloyd.
No, I'm quoting Hansard.
You all have filthy, filthy minds, and I think I've done enough talking about holes and sausages for an entire year.
A whole lot of holes ending in a sausage mess.
OK, Amelia, a lot of sausage chat today, but it was actually a pretty bleak economic outlook.
Oh boy, playing silly sausages probably wasn't the banger of a day that Nicola Willis was hoping for, because what is in this Treasury document is a pretty bleak forecast about the next couple of years in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and Nicola Willis was clearly hoping that she'd be able to blame all of this on the previous government, then paint herself as the economic saviour in a pink suit who gets to ride in and save the day. But then again, pretty much everything in this document is now out of date, because the fiscal forecasts were finalised on the 24th of November, which is 5 whole days before the coalition government was even formed. So they haven't been able to model the impacts of the coalition's plans for spending cuts and also tax cuts. Treasury did manage a micro-analysis of the mini-budget, though, and says broadly it expects the coalition's plans to be fiscally neutral, but then goes on to say that there is a risk that they're not, and then what impact that could have economically. For example, whether the tax cuts will be inflationary. One thing is very clear, though, is that there is very little fiscal wiggle room for Nicola Willis's self-described big tax cut sausage.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Amelia, there were some other financials that came out today that weren't actually part of the mini-budget, the Prime Minister's Te Reo lessons.
That's right. For the party which has promised to be so across spending it will go through every single line item, it's taken them 3 whole days, but they have finally come up with the cost for the Te Reo Māori lessons that Christopher Luxon took when he was the leader of the opposition, and that is $4,150.
Very good. That's Amelia Wade live at Parliament. Thanks very much, Amelia.